Have you ever put on an outfit and felt like something is missing? Like the outfit looks good, but there's just a small element that it seems to be lacking. That is where layering comes in. And I thought today we could break down 5 different layering techniques and how you can incorporate these into your outfits for layered looks that feel dimensional and really interesting. Mastering the art of layering is a great way to bring in that depth and movement to your outfits without necessarily adding on an additional piece like a blazer or a jacket. And these techniques will allow you to do that without overcomplicating your outfit. And before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you want to see more videos like this from me. I feel like it makes sense to start with the easiest way to layer our outfits, and that's by using jewelry. Now, this part of the video does include a paid integration with Mejuri, who you'll know I've worked with for so many years, even having co-designed a pair of earrings with them. I have some new pieces that I'm going to combine with some of my older favorites to illustrate how we can stack our jewelry pieces for a visually interesting layered look. Now, rather excitingly, Mejuri are actually running a spring sale, which I believe is for the first time ever. So in the past, they've only had 1 sale per year. Now they're running 2. So this is a great opportunity to save a little bit off your purchase, maybe buy something for a loved one or for yourself ahead of Mother's Day, but you can save up to 20% off your order. There is a minimum spend, which I'm going to have on screen in all the different currencies. But as usual, I will link all of the pieces that I personally share and love down in the description box below, along with some of the items that I'm currently eyeing up. So we'll start by layering and stacking our necklaces, and there's a really simple formula that you can use to do this. So first we start with a really short dainty chain. This is a diamond chain which I've had from Mejuri for I think close to a decade at this point, and really beautiful, really sparkly. Then we have a mid-length pendant, and I think you can either have something that falls much lower down your chest or a little bit higher up, like the one that I'm wearing. Now this is actually a chain that allows you to customize it with different add-on charms, which I've done here, and I think that this is a great way to add that personalized element to your jewelry. Finally, layer on a longer chain. So you want this to fall between your shortest necklace and the pendant, or lower than the pendant. This is a great way to frame the neckline and also helps bring a blank canvas to life, especially if you're wearing a very plain top. We're going to layer and stack rings next, and I feel like you can have so much fun here. Personally, I've been enjoying pairing really chunky rings together as it adds a lot of weight on the hand, and I feel like it helps to balance a more minimal outfit. But you can also mix precious metals with more textured rings, or mix metals like silver and gold together for a bit of a subtle contrast. I also like the idea of pairing thinner rings with ones that are slightly thicker. And you can see here that I've paired a few of my favorites, including adding an additional heirloom ring into my stack. The garnet has been a favorite for a couple of years now, and I think the citron is going to be a fast favorite too. I also like the idea of layering our earrings, so if you do have multiple piercings, this is a great way to play with length, height, and also the width and chunkiness of your earring pieces. Again, we can mix metals here too, and also maybe add in an element of sparkle with some dainty diamonds. Of course, the final way that we can layer with our jewelry is through our bracelets, and we can bring in a timepiece to this element as well. So I've got a 2-tone watch, which I find works so well with silver and gold. So you can layer more daintier bracelet. You could add in a tennis bracelet if you wanted to bring in that element of shine and sparkle, or you could incorporate a cuff too. And mixing chain bracelets with a smoother cuff can be a great way to play around with texture on the wrist. For many of us, jewelry is that layering piece that helps to tie our entire outfit together, and it adds that sense of adornment to our look, which can bring textural interest and dimension. What I appreciate most about Mejuri's designs is that they're beautifully crafted and feel effortless to wear every day, despite how bold or minimal they are. I'll be wearing these stacked looks from Mejuri throughout, so you can see how nicely they play with all my other layering techniques. As mentioned, I will link all of the pieces that I'm wearing that I've shared down in the description box below, along with a link to where you can shop the sale and save up to 20% off your purchase. Next, let's talk about proportional layering, which is something I get asked about a lot, and I think it can play out in many different ways. If you've ever felt like the way that you layer makes you look really boxy or shapeless, it's probably because of the types of items that you've paired together. together. They're not working together in harmony, but instead they're creating more of the same, which leads to more of a shapeless look. For example, the oversized trend, which we really saw come in full force in 2020. If we wear two oversized pieces together, we can lose our shape entirely and it can potentially come off looking a little bit sloppy. For example, I'm wearing these fluid drape trousers, which do have a bit of width to them, with this oversized blazer from Tibby. Now, I love these two pieces individually, but together I feel like I lose my shape and I kind of look a little bit like a blob. And it's because we have so many soft features in this look. The fabrics are quite unstructured, and we also have the rounded toe of the ballerinas that I've paired it with. So there's a few things that we could do. First, we can swap out the ballerinas for a sharp pointed toe shoe that helps to bring some structure into the look and also draw the eye downwards. Then we can swap out that soft jacket for something that has a little bit more structure to it and a little bit more rigidity. So one option would be this kind of more tweedy boucle jacket. Even though it's not my perfect proportions, this feels a lot more intentional and also a lot more well styled. I feel like you can actually see my silhouette, and to me this reads as a lot more chic. You can still do slightly relaxed silhouettes, but the key here is that the fabrication actually needs to have structure in it. For example, this Mark Kinley Domino Tan denim chore jacket that I have. There's a stiff, rigid quality to the denim, which helps it to hold its shape. And by actually scrunching up the sleeves, we reveal a bit of the arm, which adds a slimmer element to the outfit. I think here, adding in those bolder jewelry pieces as well helps to tie in with the look and create that sense of balance. So if we pair the dress with a jacket whose hemline kisses the hem of the dress, while yes, we have some textural interest going on with the mix of fabrics, there isn't really that dimension added into the look. So a really easy swap would be to switch it out for a jacket that has a lot more length through the leg. So this trench that I'm wearing, it basically breaks the outfit up into thirds, with the space from the hemline of the dress to the hemline of the jacket making up 1/3 and the dress taking up the other 2/3 of the outfit. So here what we're doing is using proportions to strategically create shape rather than overwhelming our figure. One thing you hear me talk about a lot, because I love a tonal look, is the importance of texture. So let's chat textural layering, which to me is definitely one of the most underrated ways to layer our looks. Basically, if you ever feel like your outfit comes off feeling a little bit one-dimensional, by adding in a sense of texture, a tactile quality, we can instantly elevate and refine our outfits and make it appear more interesting. So I've started off with a base outfit that combines two silk pieces. And while I look at this and on the surface, it does come off feeling very chic, I also think it's a little bit boring. It kind of looks a little bit plain. It's elegant, but it's plain. There's not a lot happening. The jewelry definitely helps to lift things because I'm wearing these layered looks throughout, but there's something else lacking. So by bringing in a different element of texture, we can instantly elevate and amp up the outfit. So there's a couple of ways that I've done that. First of all, keeping the base look on and then adding a mohair cardigan. This has that same level of neutrality, but it just brings in this fuzzy texture to kind of act as a contrast against the smooth sheen of the silk. Another way that we could do this would be to swap out the top entirely for something that is textured and that has a different feeling, a different look to the silk trousers. So I've gone with a cable knit tank, and instantly you can see how this pops out, despite the fact that yes, it is a different color. It's very muted and very light, so it adds to the calming presence of this outfit. Other ways that we can think about textures is by pairing matte with shiny textures. For example, I've got these navy trousers in a matte cotton. They're also really structured, and I've paired them with a silky blouse, so that has an element of shine to it. And so here we're playing around with those ideas with contrast and bringing tension into the look. Or we can think about soft versus structured textures. So really stiff, rigid pieces paired with things that have a little bit more of a flowy elegance to them. So I've gone with this denim vest and I've paired that with a flowy trouser. And you can see how the trousers have a lot of movement, whereas the top really holds its own. And this comes off as feeling quite graceful. And I love how using this layering tool allows us to combine elements from both ends of the spectrum. Now, what about layering color? There are 3 different ways that we can approach layering color in our outfits. 1 is to go for a monochromatic outfit, 2 is to go for a tonal look, And 3 is to go for contrasting colors. So we'll start with the monochromatic look. This is really where texture comes into play because we want to bring in that depth, but thinking about how we can add in a sense of layers to our outfit. So adding sheer elements to pieces that are a little bit more opaque, thinking about that contrast between flowy and more structured pieces. So here what I've done for this monochromatic look is I've worn a sheer long sleeve top underneath a white shirt, and I've rolled the sleeves of the shirt so that I can reveal a little bit more of the sheer top underneath. This really has a lot of impact because you can visually see these layers. Belted at the waist with a contrasting belt. You could do a creamy colored belt in this instance if you had one. I personally don't, so just going with what I have here. I like the way that even just the necklaces layered over the top of the sheer knit brings in that sense of balance because it does create a nice blank canvas to showcase a little bit of adornment there. I've also gone for a nude colored shoe too, and this is a really great kind of elongating outfit because it draws the eye downwards by using that singular block of color. Chromatic outfits always look polished and they have a bit of a calming essence to them. The second option would be to go for a tonal outfit, and this is where we pair different depths of the same color family. And I've opted to go for blues because it's definitely one of my favorites to have in my wardrobe. So we have this really rich, deep, dark blue of the trousers. These also have a nice structure to them. The tank that I'm wearing is an icy blue. It's quite light in color with the suede of the shoes, which kind of align with the trousers, creating that long block through the leg, making my legs look a little bit longer. And then we have the medium toned blue of the denim jacket. In addition to thinking about creating a tonal look, you can see that I've employed that sense of texture and really integrated that into all of my different choices. I would recommend sticking to items that have the same temperature, so cool or warm or neutral. Final way to layer with color is through contrast. This creates really bold and striking looks that you can definitely dial down the impact depending on your personal preferences. I love the pairing of red and black together. I think that this just has such an impactful moment. It is really eye-catching and it's something that you can't look past. And you can do this in a more subtle way by layering a top underneath a dress or underneath the knit where only a small amount is revealed. Another way to use contrasting colors would be to pair things together that are really unexpected. So going back to that cable knitted tank and the icy blue, I've paired that with a really rich tan colored jean, which feels so unexpected. The final type of layering is functional layering. So this is dressing practically for the season that you're in, thinking about how your layers will work for you and make you feel comfortable throughout the day as you go about your work. Especially if you live somewhere with an unpredictable climate, layering can make all the difference as it ends up resulting in an outfit that is both chic and pragmatic. So I'm going to start with the same base of a pair of blue jeans, and I'm going to show you how I would practically layer it for 3 different climates. So first of all, we're going to start with the more summery look. And this is a really simple outfit, pairing a black tank underneath a gauzy linen shirt. The shirt adds a nice layer. It also brings in that visual impact of the layers that is very overt, and it's easy enough to take off and still feel styled because we have thought about layering with jewelry first. For the second look, we're thinking about the transitional season, so autumn and spring, and how we can adjust our outfit to bring in layers that really suit the weather. So we're going to start off with some sort of base layer. Could be sleeveless or long sleeve, depending, but I've gone for sleeveless as Sydney weather tends to be very mild. Then over the top, we're going to layer a shirt, which will tuck in, but you could also wear loose if you preferred, maybe even cinched at the waist, and then layering a light jacket or trench coat over the top. These are layers that are easy enough to remove, and again, having that jewelry as our base layering element to bring in polish helps to refine the look regardless of what level of layering you are wearing. Finally, the cold weather layered look. Now this is where invisible layering comes into play, though you could do a little roll neck if you preferred, but I started with a base layer of a merino long sleeved. Over the top, I'm layering another knitted piece, and this is my secret for keeping warm and toasty when it's particularly cold. Wearing a really nice thin base layer that you can put slightly thicker knits over the top. That way we're adding warmth without the bulk. And then over the top of the knit, I would layer a really nice thick coat, and you could also add a scarf and obviously a hat and gloves into the mix too. But I wanted to purely show you the clothing elements as I feel like that is where our head is at when we're getting dressed in the morning. Again, I could easily remove these layers and I would still feel like I had a chic and polished outfit. So proportion, texture, color, function, and jewelry. These are the 5 key tenets of layering that help us to create a dimensional and visually interesting outfit. For many of us, these are things that we might be doing, but perhaps aren't thinking practically about. But if not, we can easily integrate these styling habits into our everyday looks. A huge thank you to Mejuri for partnering with me on this video. Don't forget that you can save up to 20% with their stacking event, so be sure to check out the links down in the description box below. Also perfect timing ahead of Mother's Day. And I would love to know in the comments which layering tip you use the most, or if there's any other little layering techniques that you personally find help to elevate and refine your outfits. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, as it does help me with the algorithm, and don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. I share a lot of styling advice, ways to remix your wardrobe, and brand reviews. I will see you next week with a brand new one. See you very soon. Bye.